Yeah. I I'm sorry in advance for how dirty and messy I must surely look. Not that it really matters all of that much. Not that I've really taken that much care in any other video that I've made. Exactly how well my appearance comes across, but it's something I've been trying to take more consideration into. But I'm kind of sick. My nose is stuffed. I had a random illness, which the worst of it was like one day I had like a scratchy throat and my nose was stuffed full and my back hurt so bad. It was just achy, like the sore muscle feeling, but it was all localized entirely to my fucking lower spine. So, um yeah, it's been a fucking it's been a good last couple of days. So yeah, welcome to the Emporium. Uh, I just I needed so I saw Obsession the other day, and I needed to talk about it because I really enjoyed it, but also it kind of fucked me up a little bit. Um, Now I enjoy the odd horror movie. I think they're fun. I think they tell some interesting stories. Um, I've I've seen a lot, but I don't have like a list in front of me. None of this isn't scripted in the slightest, which you'll definitely be able to tell. Um, I don't even have like a list pulled up or comparative points or themes or anything. I just needed to talk about this. Like I just needed to record something and talk about the movie because okay, goddamn. There's been a lot of banger YouTuber to big screen movies recently. Because I saw Backrooms, which I really enjoyed, and I watched Iron Lung in theater like four times, and then I watched it again a fifth time after it came out on YouTube. I rented it. Very good. Fucking loved Iron Lung. I really liked Backrooms, although of the YouTuber films that I've watched, of which I've watched I also watched The Amazing Digital Circus Final Act, which I'm going to be honest wasn't really a movie. It was just it was just the penultimate episode and then the final episode strung together into one long experience, which even then they didn't really make change. Anyway, unrelated. I'm getting sidetracked. I'm sorry. But yeah, there's been a lot of really, really good YouTuber movies that have come out recently. And Obsession seems to be another in that vein of just really well done directorial, like big screen debuts for these YouTubers. So, I saw it, and man, if you guys haven't watched Obsession, you should go see if you can find a local screening or whatever. It actually is playing at like my local theater for like $7 a pop for the tickets, which is just really really nice. That I didn't have to drive out a fucking half hour and pay $20 to get one ticket. So yeah. Um, so I, I I don't this is just a rant. So I don't know where spoiler warnings are going to go. I'm just going to kind of talk about things. I'm just processing. I'm just processing Obsession because it hit some really, really hard spots emotionally for me that I was not expecting to affect me anywhere near as much as it did. I'm not sure where to even start this. So Obsession. I'm just gonna give a basic setup. This guy has this super crush on this woman, and he goes to this like mystic shop and buys like he buys this thing called the One Wish Willow, and it's this little willow bundle that you break open and you make a wish and you get one, and then it comes true, and then it actually comes true. And I saw the ads for it, and I saw that it was Blumhouse, and I fucking hate Blumhouse. Not because of any particular film, that was made by Blumhouse, but just like the whole style. The whole style of Blumhouse Productions pisses me off. It's like finding the cheapest possible route to make the most money that you can. It's literally like Illumination Studios but for horror movies. In my mind, like vibes wise, from everything I know about the company, every film I have seen of them besides this one, that is the impression that I have. And for the most part, I think that's a pretty accurate impression. I wish I had like a list of Blumhouse movies just pulled up, but I feel like I could look up any random, like the first movie I'd see, I would probably be able to go, yep, that was a legendarily bad horror movie that people hated, like even if I haven't seen it. So the fact that it was Blumhouse really put me off for a little while, and just everything about the marketing material of the movie really made me hesitant to want to watch it. But man, like, I'm so glad that I decided to just go see it anyway. We're going to try that. I'm trying to just kind of get let the sunlight be my lighting for a little while and see how that goes. But, so, yeah, the guy, he breaks the one wish willow and wishes for the girl to love him more than anybody in the world, which, my guy, I know that you didn't think it would work, but fucking Christ, man. Have you never seen, like, a genie story before? Do you not know that you need to, like, word your wish very fucking carefully and not do the most extreme form of your wish and like, be careful? But yeah, the whole movie is just a monkey's paw kind of tale. In my mind, I think I'm using that term correctly. But a guy wishes for a particular thing, and he gets his wish, but it like ruins his life. It destroys everything that he loves, and it's directly correlated to the wish that he made. So it. Yeah, I guess just blanket spoiler warning for the whole fucking movie at this point. I have never felt like that uncomfortable in a movie theater before. The whole, like, about halfway through the movie, I was hoping that it would be over, like, as soon as possible, but not because I was not enjoying my time. Well, I wasn't, but it was in the best possible way. I hated watching Obsession. I hated watching it. I had a blast, but I hated it. It was so uncomfortable, so disquieting, so just unsettling, perturbing. And any word that's like, a synonym for disturbing, it was that. And it was such a simple, like, shitty horror concept. Like, that horror concept, a guy just making a wish and it's like cursed, is like such an old school, like, tired, tropey, like, approach to horror storytelling, but it's executed fucking beautifully. It's executed like so fucking well. I was just okay. So I really enjoyed the way that it was paced. It was snappy, but it wasn't impatient. And what I mean is, like, I didn't feel like it was trying to jangle keys in front of my face. Like, it wasn't constantly hitting me over the head with things happening. It was very naturalistic. It didn't waste time. It was efficient. It was concise. It knew when to linger. It knew when to be slow, but it was not a slow film. It was not a slow burn horror movie. Once the action starts going, it starts going. It's this, just insane, swirling, like, mess that goes downhill. And it's so... Careful. There's stuff on there. I know I covered it up. Oh, but yeah, anyway. Yeah, it was very well paced, very concise, very efficient. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Again, if you haven't seen the movie, please go just. Not that anyone is watching this, right? I'm not a big YouTuber or anything, but if you're watching this and you haven't seen Obsession, go fucking watch Obsession. If you like horror movies, if you're into like kind of intense, heavy love story based, like corruption of love and like just if you like that, any of the things that I've said, anything I've said so far, if it entices you, if you've seen the ads and you found anything in the ads that you vaguely thought you might like, you should go catch the movie. So anyway, so I guess we'll go through kind of like a little bit of a summary, so I can kind of give you like the basic ideas, the basic idea of why this movie affected me so much, because I still don't fully understand why I was so emotionally impacted myself. But I can honestly say that I can't recall a single other horror film. Now, I haven't gone through and watched all of the, disturbing, super popular, like, horror movies or anything, so it could be that I just don't have enough exposure. Like, I haven't watched Martyrs, for example. So it could just be that I don't have enough experience with more disturbing horror films, and that could be a huge part of it, but the specific things that the movie was touching on were, so the movie it opens with this monologue that the main character's doing, and I really liked that the shot was just his face, and there's these two like blurry extras in the background that are sitting faced away, you can't see their faces, and he's just talking in a very candid, open way, but it's a way that's centered on himself, which I think it's a very important thing that like the main character, I know that this is the experience that a lot of people have had, because I've watched other people talk about the movie, but the main character at the start of the movie was very relatable and very like to a younger version of myself, not to me right now. 26-year-old me is not like this character anymore, but when I was 15, 16, 17, and I mean he's a little older, he looks to be like in college, or the guy is obviously older than the age that I was when I was relating to this. He's probably more like 21, 22 years old, but I did I really understood where he was coming from. Not in my own personal life, I wasn't constantly trying to chase my crush or anything, but I felt that inability to like push past those inhibitions, those mental blocks that stopped me from living in my full like happy self, right? And a lot of people had, I think, a similar experience, not necessarily relating it to themselves, but I think a lot of people had a similar experience in that they were rooting for him at the start. Right? They saw him as a victim of circumstance, whether or not the circumstance was self-imposed, which it wasn't entirely. He's obviously going through it. His grandmother died. And after this scene where he's having this monologue, he's practicing his asking out his crush with his friend Ian and some girl who's friends with Ian. I don't think she's Sarah. I don't quite remember her face, but she's not Sarah and she's not Nikki. So, but yeah, the main character, his name is Barry, but everyone calls him Bear. And I really liked that everyone was calling him Bear the whole movie, and then we heard him say his name Barry towards the end, which was neat. I liked that they decided to include that, so it wasn't just like, cousin? This is the fucking bear? But yeah. My cat's meowing. Baby. I need to keep that door closed. Can you leave it be? Hi. You have something to say? Go ahead. There you go. Speak your mind. Speak your mind. Oh, God, what was I saying? Yes, he's monologuing with some girl. He's practicing asking out his crush, right? He's practicing asking out Nikki. And his friend Ian is like, wow, you're terrible. You don't know Nikki at all, which I thought was, in retrospect, it was a very good choice. It really established how self-centered Bear's approach to not to relationships, but to like everything is. And then after that, he comes home and his cat dies. His cat died. His cat got into his pills and died. The that scene where he comes in and finds the cat, I thought that was probably the weakest scene in terms of acting in the entire film, which I mean is good that was the weakest, because it was fine, it was decent, but it really didn't feel like a very authentic man discovering his cat's dead body to me. But whatever. I mean, he has a good cry session about it. He cleans up the body, and then it pans down to the title, which is like flowers embroidered on the bedspread, which I thought was really cool. Like on the duvet or whatever, there was it said obsession in flowers, and that was neat. But yeah, and then he's scrolling through like Instagram or whatever, looking at pictures of his crush, right? And then she calls him. He immediately starts talking to her. And she dropped a crystal on the ground or whatever. Or she dropped a crystal down the drain, I think, her necklace. And he goes to buy her a new necklace, but then doesn't. He buys one of the One Wish Willows because he thinks that all the necklaces in there are cringe and she won't like them. So he decides to get a One Wish Willow. And he's going to give it to her, and then he doesn't for some reason. I'm not 100% sure as to why. And then decides to break the One Wish Willow and wish for her to love him more than anyone else. And it was slightly frustrating. I understand why this decision happened, because the entire rest of the movie wouldn't have happened if it didn't. But it was very frustrating to have her literally go, "Do you like me?" And he couldn't just say yes. He couldn't just say, "I like you. I have feelings for you." And And again, it was necessary, and it makes sense for Barry's character. It was one of the establishing parts of the movie, so I understand why it happened. It was frustrating, though. I would have, because it's not how I would handle the situation now, but I understand. I understand the whole point about insecurity and cowardice that it's making with Bear's character, because he is a fucking coward, and we see that over and over and over again throughout the film. And then she starts acting fucking crazy and weird. And she gets in his car against his wishes. He's basically telling her no. She's acting fucking weird. He's telling her she's acting weird. And he's like, something is very clearly wrong. But he drives her back to his place, and she comes in, and she's acting super strange still. She's like, it smells just like you. And this movie walked such a razor's edge with Nikki's actor's performance the entire time, where it was like almost childish and cartoony and absurd, but she manages to walk that line so well of that cartoonish childishness and this just completely unsettling alien demonic presence. And she does a stellar job. Her actor, whose name I don't fucking remember, I'm sorry, I don't remember any of the actors' names, and I probably won't. But Nikki's actor, she did a phenomenal job, and she should probably get some sort of award for that. I don't know if anyone respects the Oscars anymore, but I think she deserves one. But she did great. She did a great job, and her performance carried the entire film. I feel like, not that the entire rest of the film was bad, but her performance was, if it was any different, if it was any less good, it would not have been a good movie. It would have been very silly. And I feel like all of the scares in this film, if they were done just 2 degrees less good, would have been silly and not scary. The first scare of the film was a little bit like, super loud boom sound effect. I mean, they're all kind of like that. And it really got me because there was literally no reason for her to jump how she does, but not that's established at the start. We understand why she's doing it probably about halfway through the movie. But yeah, she's all over him. She leans in and kisses him. He starts kissing back. And then the moment that happens, her face changes. You see her eyes like widen and her face darkens. And then she just screams and backs away and like leaps off the bed like a fucking scared cat. And it's just so like sudden. It's out of nowhere. Like people in the theater, which this was the most full that I've personally been in a theater. It still wasn't even like halfway full, but people in the theater were like, some of them gasped and some of them let out these uncomfortable laughs. And I understood both reactions entirely, because that's how I felt about it as well. It was that simultaneous, like, holy fuck, that was a jump scare, but also that simultaneous bit of silliness where that she immediately jumps back into this manic, like, insane happiness. And she's just apologizing for herself. And it starts the unsettling feeling so early. And I think it does this really nice build onto itself. I will say that when he wakes up in the morning and she's made like a shrine with the dead cat, I thought that was too early. Like, I think in the lore, in the world building of the movie, it was supposed to be that this thing that takes over her it doesn't have a frame of reference because it's not her, so it doesn't have her memories of Bear, and the only conversation they've had so far is about his dead cat. So I think that this entity, this thing that's taking over her as part of the wish, I think it's using the only base of knowledge it has to try to win Bear's affection, which is the dead cat. So she digs up the dead cat, I think, or dug it out of like the dumpster or something. I don't know what he did with the cat. He just kind of bagged it up. I think maybe if we saw what he did with the body and like how far it was, and like we could have maybe pieced together a bit better what happened. And I just feel like it was too early to do this. I feel like it blew its proverbial load a little bit with that happening so early, although that is nowhere near the most fucked up thing that happens in the movie. But it is quite a lot to happen so early. But I think it's such an interesting choice that he barely acknowledges it. It doesn't really come up again, except for when we'll get to that. So yeah, he goes to work. They go to work together, And oh my god, there's this scene. Ian walks Bear to the back office, and we see Bear. He's facing, towards the camera. Ian's got his back to the camera, and way behind Bear in the store is Nikki, and she's staring at him the entire shot. And this is like a full 3, 4, 5 minutes of this one shot, and you can see her, she's blurred out, so you can't see her face, which they did such a good job with what you could see of Nikki. They did a fucking fantastic job with the cinematography choices of what you could see of Nikki, of her face, how she's posed in the dark, how she's posed in these blurry frames, and the entire time she's staring and smiling, and you can tell that's what she's doing. And sometimes Bear will turn around and it will focus in on her face a little bit, and oh my god, it made me so uncomfortable. And then god, so yeah, I get a little fuzzy on the exact timeline of the plot here, because it was yesterday, not like an hour ago. But yeah, we just see this this maintaining this unsettling behavior. And even on this first night, he's like, she's fucking crazy, some fucked up shit happened, and Ian's like, I think she was on drugs. And Bear looks up the symptoms of like Molly use, and he's like, yeah, I think she was on drugs. I think you're right. And she shows up and she's like, I was on drugs. I'm sorry. So anyway, I'm going to sleep here tonight? And he's like, no, I think you should go home. And then she forces her way in. And from here, the movie it's this perfect balance of her swinging in and out of these, like, black and white, like, super love and hyper anger, like, obsessed behaviors. And they did such a good job capturing that, like, because I've been in a relationship like this one when I was younger. Again, it was like right around the time I was probably a senior in high school. I was like 17, 18. And I was in a relationship very similar to this one, which I think is a major reason that this impacted me so much, that this made me so uncomfortable, is because I felt this exact same way that Bear has felt. And I don't want it to sound like I'm some, I'm completely empathizing with Bear and agreeing with his decisions. I think he's kind of a bad person, and he's a coward, and his insecurities have overtaken him until all that's left is this weak, sniveling, pathetic little man who cannot for the life of him face any of his problems. So don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that Bear's a good guy, but I understand perfectly the exact, like, ballpark of emotions that are going on. This, like, behind closed doors, you can tell shit's fucked relationship that they have going on. And Bear, over and over again throughout the movie, just does not take any hard steps. He doesn't have the hard conversations. He doesn't, like, she cooks his cat and puts it in a sandwich and packs a lunch. And this scene was, it's in retrospect, it was not shocking at all, but I didn't think they were going to go that direction with it so quickly. So I was a little bit surprised when they just decided to go all out on the cat cooking. And he's like driving home and he's practicing to himself in the rearview mirror, like, you can't cook the cat. You can't cook the cat. We don't cook the cat. That's wrong. You can't do that. And it's like I understood that feeling. Like, I understood that feeling precisely. That swinging between these states where it's like, yeah, it's good and it's cool, but it just feels wrong. And then it is wrong. It's not just like a feeling, it's something very wrong is happening beneath the surface, and you're just not acknowledging it. You're not pushing yourself past the hard feelings that come with having to have these hard talks to make these changes, to make the relationship better, even beyond that, to encourage, your partner or whoever, encouraging them to be healthier, to seek help, to get her help. Because even though there is like a supernatural component to this, it's pretty obvious that something is deeply wrong. And it doesn't matter that there's some supernatural, like, insane shit happening. I'm gonna take her to a fucking hospital, and I'm gonna have her head fucking checked, dude, because this shit is not okay. And he's he's manipulating it. He's taking advantage of it. And when he makes the call, so there's this one day he's scheduled to work and she isn't, and that's the day that she packs him a lunch, right? And he's having a conversation with her, and then he turns around and you can see his face fucking drop, and the camera does this slow pan, and it's like, oh boy, what's he see? The door is completely duct taped. Oh my god. Like, and he just go, and it's funny. It's a funny scene when he's like trying to open the door and she's like, oh, if you're having trouble, you should just stay home. But that, at the same time, even though I laughed, I felt in my gut like my stomach just drop. I felt my heart start pounding. And the whole movie is scenes like this. It's scenes where there's this horrifying implication, but it's a funny scene. And I thought it was such a good balance that oh god. There's a scene where she's like standing in a dark corner and you don't see her at all, and he's like calling out for her, and you just hear her whisper from the dark, go back to sleep. And it's like, okay, all right, that feels like a pretty cliche little horror trope, right? And then she moves. And the way that she moves, oh god, it's like when you watch a spider crawl and you just have that visceral gut reaction that you feel reverberate in goose flesh over your whole fucking being, where it's like, this is wrong. This creature moves wrong. She's like, they've like reversed her footage, and that whole scare where she starts moving out of the dark could have been so fucking lame. It could have been laughable and silly. But it wasn't. It wasn't laughable and silly. It was genuinely fucking horrifying. It was a particular kind of slow burn jump scare, for lack of a better term that I am familiar with. Like, it wasn't a jump scare in the traditional in your face kind of way, but it very much jumped me. It jumped the whole theater. And oh man, that scene was fucking. And the way that she starts having these emotional breakdowns of, like, when she's like, I'm scared of my dreams, and she doesn't want, oh god, and then she like, she like runs up, and then she like, it's like she's reversed back into the darkness. It's this constant push and pull of her barely visible face. And they did this effect with her eyes in some shots where you can like see the sparkle in the eye, and the entire rest of her face is dark. And so it's just, there's so many visceral things. There's so many visceral things in this movie that just impacted me so hard that I really didn't think they were going to. Sorry, I keep thinking of there's a scene that I cannot stop thinking of, and it's just because of how like blunt in more ways than one it was. But yeah, the scene where she I'm sorry, like I said, there's no script. I'm just processing. So she sent him off to work with the cat, the cat made into a sandwich, and it shows her after he leaves, after he pulls open the duct tape door. She's standing in one spot with this horrific, uncomfortable, unnatural smile. And she's just standing completely stock still. And then it pans down and she's fucking pissing herself. And it's like so... it's not gross because it's pee. It's just like, it's so uncomfortable and alien and weird. And then he comes home and she's standing in the same spot. And there's puke all over her chest. Her shirt's like kind of ripped. Like, I don't know what happened. It doesn't imply that anything happened. There's nothing amiss in the house except for her. And she just like shit herself on the floor and everything. She stood in the exact same spot the whole day. And that shit just freaked me out. Got me so good. And yeah, as the movie progresses, it's just shit like that. It's shit like that over and over again. It's this unsettling stuff that's behind closed doors, and then eventually it's not behind closed doors anymore. Ian invites Bear out to a guy's night, and he basically says Nikki can't come, and if it's a healthy relationship, she won't mind. Right? It's perfectly normal for friends to hang out without their partners. And, of course, Bear's like, hey, Ian invited me to a guy's night out, and so I'm just going to go to that. And she's like, okay, well, I'll get dressed, and I'll go. And he's like, no, I'm just going to go. You stay. And she starts freaking out. She starts screaming. And I loved it. I loved her switching between this calm demeanor and this violent, like, all-encompassing rage, this screaming. And it felt so real. And then he relents because she's just screaming so goddamn much. And God takes her to this, and she basically ruins everybody's good time. She reads this incestuous Hansel and Gretel like fanfic thing that she's written. And I know that Hansel and Gretel, to some extent, I think the original story was partly incestuous, or there was like implied incest or something. I could be wrong about that, but I really thought it was a good way of like mirroring how she sees him as a little brother, like which is something that Sarah says when he to Bear, because she's trying to be like, I'm concerned for Nikki. She's not acting right. She, like, out of nowhere, you guys are dating like super hard, and I think that she's just trying to make Ian jealous because her and Ian have been fucking for a while. So I think she's just going through something, and and Bear plays victim with the whole situation, and it's yeah. And in the party scene, she has this whole freak out session where you see what we oh God, there's the picture in the lunch, the fucking pictures in the lunch. So she okay. So she has these pictures taken, these Polaroids of her and Bear while they're asleep, or while he's asleep, right? She takes a picture of him while he's sleeping, and then she poses, right, in the one way over him, right, and then takes a picture of him. And the one that's his picture says you, and then the one that's has her face says not me. Oh, oh, ugh. It was so ugh. And like, it's such a good like, I loved how the movie didn't feel the need to like constantly explain what was happening within it. It was just like it just let these implications linger before they were confirmed through, like, you know, just other things that were happening. But when he calls the One Wish Willow like helpline, and the guy sounds bored and like he's stoned out of his mind, and he's just like, "Sir, are you trying to cancel your wish?" Bear asks, "Do you is this real?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, the wish is real." He's like, "No, not the wish. Is her love? Is her love real?" And the guy says, "Just because you chose this for her doesn't make it any less real." And I can't logically put into words why that line stuck out to me so much, but it hit me in the gut. It punched me right in the fucking gut. And then he says, "Do you want to talk to her?" And Bear goes, "Talk to who?" The guy goes, "Nikki." And then we hear her screaming over the phone, and the music starts swelling, and he's like, "Would you like to talk to Nikki?" And he still sounds so bored, and it's this perfect juxtaposition before the pain, between the pain in Nikki's voice and the guy talking on the phone, and it's, oh god. And the fucking, oh, so yeah, then at some point, Nikki is asleep in bed next to Bear, and he sneaks out of bed because Sarah texted him and she needs to tell him something important, and she says, "If you don't come to me, I'm going to come to you." And he's like, "Well, I definitely don't want her coming here." So he sneaks out of bed, and Nikki whispers. And he turns around and he goes, "What?" And she goes, "Quiet. She's sleeping." It's me. And just having that fully confirmed, like, no doubt. And she says, "Kill me. Kill me. Don't wake her, but I need you to kill me." And he goes, "Is it so bad being with me?" And she says, "I never was with you, Bear." Fuck. Oh. God. Jesus Christ. It really got to me. It really, really got to me. But yeah. And then he doesn't kill her. He once more takes the coward way out because he wants her still. He doesn't mind dealing with all of this bullshit because he feels like he can maintain this victim complex. Oh, this is being forced upon me. He was just given an out. Nikki just begged him to kill her, and he's not doing it because he doesn't want this to end. He doesn't want her to get better, right? Whether that means that she doesn't have to suffer in this form. He just wants to date her. He doesn't see that no matter what he does, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. God. But yeah, anyway, he goes out to Sarah's car and they start talking, and it was pretty obvious that Sarah was going to die in that scene, but I was not expecting the way she died at all. Just the suddenness of it. Nikki crashing through the window, and she holds a brick in front of the steering wheel, and she's pounding Sarah's head into it over and over and over, full force, like 20 or 30 times, and her face is just paste, and it's crazy. I was covering my mouth. I was straight up like, oh my god, it was very well done scene. Not shocking what happened, but shocking how it happened. It was very, very shocked at the specific way in which she was killed, and like it did not pull any punches with that scene. It showed the whole mess. Very good gore effects, which I'm a sucker for some well done gore in my horror movies. She's curious. You're a good girl. Yeah, you're being so good. So yeah, and then he basically goes back to the shop, and he goes back to the mystic shop that he got the One Wish Willow from after he helps Nikki take care of the body, which it doesn't. And he stops about halfway because she's just like, yeah, just go do something else. When she go home, I'll finish up here. And so he does, of course, because, I obviously. And he goes to the mystic shop, and the guy's fucking with him. He's like, what do you mean? What's a One Wish Willow? I don't know what you're fucking talking about. And he's like, this is right over here. And he points to the shelf. I thought that was a funny bit of levity after how heavy that scene with Sarah was. Because it was so refreshing to see like an interaction between Bear and someone who wasn't Nikki, who was just like a normal, regular person with like goals and a life that isn't his like distorted fantasy of what a relationship could be like. They're normal, peaceful, calm conversations that feel like two regular people talking. And then it's just interrupted by this literal brick in the face. Awesome. Terrible. Awesome. Loved it and I hated it. And then after this point, everything just crumbles. He goes to the One Wish Willow shop, and the guy's like, well, you can't undo the wish. Like, surely you already knew it. It had a bunch of warnings on the fucking box, man. You can't blame me for this. And he's like, well, can you undo my wish? And he's like, well, no, I already used my wish. If you can find someone else to counteract your wish, then whatever. So he gets like 3 or 4 One Wish Willow sticks, and he goes to try to break it in his car, and it will not break, which I thought was fun. Like the supernatural, like he's putting it on the steering wheel, and he's trying to wrench it with the leverage, and it's just not happening. That was a fun scene, and he goes to Ian, and I fucking loved Ian. Like, I hated him a little bit. I didn't hate him, but he was, like, clearly kind of a douchebag, but in a very, like, normal, down-to-earth kind of way. Like, he's just a frat bro. Like, he's just a guy who's very obviously got a lot of confidence and a lot of, like, bravado, and he just doesn't really give a fuck. He just kind of does whatever he wants. And he's still at the same time, like, he's trying to warn Bear about how, Nikki lied about her dad's cancer thing. He's trying to tell Bear about all kinds of shit, right? He didn't tell Bear that that him and Nikki had been fucking for a while, but Bear shows up and he's like, listen, man, and he explains the whole thing with the One Wish Willow, and he's trying to explain, and Ian just doesn't fucking listen because Bear has been like a fucking brick wall the entire movie with Ian, and hasn't been open and honest, and hasn't been having the hard conversations that he needs to have for Ian to have believed him up to this point, right? Like, if he had like said, hey, you're right, Nikki's acting really weird, and been like, I think it might have something to do with this thing, the One Wish Willow, and like, so yeah, Ian doesn't believe him. He takes the stick and he goes, I wish for $1 million, and he breaks it. And and just money starts raining down from the ceiling, and Bear collapses defeated onto his knees, and he brings the other One Wish Willow that he has to Nikki. And I mean, logically, I probably would have taken like $400-500 of the $1 billion that my friend just wished into existence, and been like, hey, I'll pay you $500, $1,000 to say this and break this willow, right? And then they do it, and they get their money. But I understand why that doesn't happen, because that would be a really boring, stupid end to this movie, which is not about the mechanics of the One Wish Willow, right? It's not about like the most efficient path for Bear to end this. It's about the relationship that should never have been. It's about Bear and his insecurity and how that fueled this horrific situation. So it's not about, like, it would have been a terrible ending. It would have been an awful ending if Bear just undid the wish. Like, I really think, like, I'm very glad that he didn't have a way out. And he comes back home. He tells Ian, do not fucking go over there. Do not come over at all. Don't do it. Whatever you do, don't go over there. And he goes over. Sarah's body was not taken care of in the traditional sense. I don't know what Nikki was intending on them doing with the body. I think there was some implication that they were going to do something unsavory with Sarah's dead body, but I don't know, because she's splayed naked in a chair in the middle of like the living room, and there's this like memorial cake thing set up to their relationship that Nikki clearly was dissatisfied with and like smashed. And like there was so much happening in this room. She's playing this footage, and I thought it was some particular version of Romeo and Juliet playing on the TV, but it might have just been my partner that I went with. They seemed to think that it was footage of Bear sleeping. Very well might have been. It was hard to tell. It was kind of a quick cut, but Bear. The guy over the phone, when he called One Wish Willow, the guy said, when you die, the wish will end. So Bear then had a choice, right? He had the choice of killing Nikki or killing himself to free Nikki. And at first I thought he was going to kill himself because of its suggestion. And then as things progressed after that point, I thought he was going to end up killing Nikki because, I mean, she literally asked for it after that. And we get to see how much of a coward and a pathetic little man Bear is as the movie goes on. And the... Bear goes into the bathroom. He's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom." Nikki comes out with a gun. She starts like threatening to fucking shoot herself, and Bear's still trying to stop her from doing this. Which I'm not saying that would have been the best ending to the movie, but I mean, she asked you to die. Like, she asked to die. I would not be discouraging her doing it at this point. Given the givens of the situation, but she's got a gun. She's putting it in her mouth. She's pointing it at Bear. But she says that she'd never hurt him. So I don't know. And Ian comes in, and he's like, "Hey man, it's real. There's $1 billion." And Nikki just fucking pops a cap right in his head. Perfect 360 no scopes right in his fucking dumb forehead. And Bear's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go to the bath." And he's saying, "Oh, I love you so much. You're the most beautiful girl ever. I need to go to the bathroom, okay?" And he goes to the bathroom, and she starts saying through the door, maybe we should break up. If you need space, let's get some space. And I found that very interesting, because that seems like something that this demon thing that's possessing her would never say. So I'm not 100% sure why. Like, I know why she's doing it, like, strategically, right? Obviously, it's to lull him into some false sense of security and make him go, oh, okay, yeah, let's break up. And then obviously she'd freak out. But I don't know. It felt like the movie was trying to give him a different out than the out he ended up trying to take. So, putting the... Do you have an opinion on Obsession, Beast? Did you think it was scary? She thought it was very scary. I can translate her yowls, her meows. Hey, baby. Do you want to get up? Whoa. Tell YouTube how you feel, Beast. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to participate in this video anymore. Okay. Anyway, after that insightful cat break, then the movie ends with so Bear's, he has the gun like to his chest, and he's like about to pull the trigger. He takes out. She gave him a tiger eye earlier for courage, and I thought that was a really good choice to have him pull it out. And I was like, yes, finally, it's like the completion of this arc. It's like a redemption arc, right? It's like it's the final hurrah. It's the he's finally taking responsibility, and he's doing his one and only like selfless act of bravery in the movie. And he puts the gun to his chest, which again, I'm not fucking around with waiting to bleed out with a bullet in my heart. I'm going to put the gun to my temple and put the bullet right through there. So there's like there's so little waiting that it's not going to matter. But he can't do it. He just can't do it. He's like, I can't do it. So he puts the gun down, and then he takes out his pills, which okay, fine. So he takes the pills because that to him, and it's another thing of like, he's not doing the hard thing that would make this in the long run better. Right, he's not just fucking doing it. He's not just literally pulling the trigger on it and doing the hard thing. He's doing the easy way out, right? Which typically means suicide, which it does also mean suicide in this case, but it's the method, right? He chooses a softer way, which is slowly losing consciousness with his pills and then dying. So he takes a bunch. He downs, like, he does the whole thing. He dry swallows pills, and then he's sitting there, and finally you're like, oh my god, he's gonna do it. He's gonna sit there, and he's gonna just die. He's gonna let it happen. And then he gets a trash can, and he starts making himself throw up, and then you hear the wish willow break in the other room, and he stops, and he gets this big old smile on his face, and he walks out, and they embrace. And then he dies in her arms. And it's like 2 seconds away from being like a Romeo and Juliet situation. He's dying of poison, and she's going to kill herself with a gun in this case. And she's, putting it in her mouth. And then she's suddenly freed. He dies, and the wish ends, and she's freed. And it lingers. It lingers on her coming back. And she pushes Bear off. And she's just crying and screaming. And the camera does this great. I really enjoyed the camera panning like down, and then it's upside down, and then it focuses on the TV, and it's static, and then it's the credits, and you still hear her crying and screaming. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. And yeah, it just great. Fucking just wonderful movie, fantastic movie. If you haven't, I don't know. I just kind of went through the whole plot because again, this is just me processing. I'm just trying to process the fucking movie. I really liked how they did the lighting. I loved the cinematography. I loved the pacing. The dialogue was very well done. Like, this is, obviously the person who wrote the dialogue and directed the actors, Curry Barker. I hope I got his name right. Which a sketch comedy YouTuber making this is crazy. Like I know that there was like Get Out and Us and all that from Jordan Peele. I don't remember. Fuck. I feel like such an uncultured, uneducated movie fan. But like I know that comedians can do good horror, but it's so surprising to me that this particular just random sketch comedy YouTuber managed to do one of the scariest films that I've ever seen, one of the most unsettling movies that I've personally seen. And I've watched a decent number of horror movies. Like I've watched a lot of just random horror movies of varying quality. Because my one of my uncle was a huge horror head, and he had a bunch of horror movies, and I go over to his place because I was super close with one of my cousins, and I would just sit and watch some horror movies over there sometimes. So I saw quite a few. Again, I couldn't tell you the names of even half of the horror movies that I have watched over the course of my life. Obsession really fucking scared me. Like, man, unsettled. My heart was pounding. I was uncomfortable. I wanted it to be over in the best way possible. And yeah, I really loved how it explored through a very sympathetic lens this particular kind of masculine insecurity, and specifically this like disabling, cowardly insecurity that prevents you from becoming a better person and makes you into a manipulator, right? The victim to villain is something I've heard it called, and it's good. It was a very, very well done, wonderfully shot. The lighting was great. The way that it did all of the scares walked a perfect knife's edge between ridiculous and horrifying that made the entire experience so unstable and unsettling. It captured the feeling of domestic toxicity in such a just beautifully executed way. And yeah, I cannot stop thinking about Sarah getting her head smashed. I just can't. It's like replaying on a loop in my fucking head, her getting her head smashed like 30 fucking times. Just crazy. But yeah. So anyway, I guess that's really all I have to say. I'm sorry that it was just all like rambling and me talking with a stuffed nose and my cat coming and meowing, but I had to talk about this. I had to talk about this because I talked about it last night, and I watched videos about it last night after I watched them film because it impacted me so viscerally. Yeah, and it touched on such a specific kind of relationship dynamic that I have specifically been in before. And again, I was not a good partner, but neither was she, and it was not a good situation all around, and it was toxic. And if I had the ability to go past my insecurities and stop being a coward and have the hard conversations, we both would have been better off. And I think it was just such a well done, like, it didn't hold back, it didn't sugarcoat it, it didn't make Bear out to be the good guy, it didn't soften him at all, and yet I still, like, it was understandable. It wasn't, after a point it became completely unrelatable, but it was very understandable why he would act the way that he would act. And I think that was a very well done balance that very hard to pull off. But yeah, I'm going to be thinking about this movie for a while. And yeah, fucking wow. I don't know what I'd rate it. Probably a solid 8 or 9 out of 10. Yeah, of the YouTuber movies that I've seen, I think Obsession and Iron Lung are almost tied. I think Iron Lung's maybe not quite as... I mean, it's not as scary. Iron Lung wasn't scary at all, but... No, which isn't to say that Iron Lung's bad. I fucking loved Iron Lung. Obviously, I saw it 4 times in theaters, so I quite enjoyed it. But, Iron Lung is fun. Obsession was not fun. Obsession was uncomfortable and, to a large extent, uncompromising. It did not pull any punches. It did not hold any bars. And I really, really liked it. Great film. Highly recommend watching it. Even if you haven't and you've gotten to the end of this and you have the whole plot spoiled, the experience of me telling you about it does not in any way capture the experience of watching it. So, yeah. That was my rambling little rant trying to process Obsession. Thanks for watching, and watch your step on the way out.